therapy is in session right now. Yes, a therapist. Have either of you played therapist before?
I played many therapists.
Oh, yeah. That's right, on Oz you did. Well, no, on Oz you were the priest.
No, I played a therapist on, I played a psychiatrist on Law and Order, SVU. And then I played, in a very small part, but a really fun day that I had, I played the marriage counselor to Judy Davis and Kevin Spacey in The Ref. Very crazy.
How'd that go? Did they get back together?
It's a really great scene, actually. I mean, their marriage falls apart in the first 30 seconds of the movie. But I played a therapist a lot, actually. I don't know exactly why, but they're all very different, and I always find these parts kind of rich, and so there's always a lot there for me.
Yeah, we're asking Howard and Kyle about how you make those scenes interesting, because a lot of times it's just two people talking.
Yeah.
But how big of a challenge is that for both of you when it's just two people talking in a room?
I'm big on talking.
Okay.
I have no problem with talking. I don't know what people would think is uninteresting about talking. But I guess what you're saying is that's kind of sedentary, and that the people, the idea is this show is built on a really rich foundation. It's about this guy going through this incredible emotional experience, and two people who have very different ways, among many other things that the show is about, two people have very different ways of treating him or dealing with him. They have two different techniques. And so the contrast, I think, is a part of what makes this scene interesting. Oh, how is she going to deal with what he's talking about? How is he going to deal with what he's talking about, and so on and so forth, and so I don't think we feel that particular challenge that it's not interesting, actually. She looks lovingly.
I think she liked your answer.
I'm a listener.
Yes.
I like to listen to Michael Britton.
Here we go.
He's combative. My technique is a little more, and it's interesting because, having only done 24, I came in the 7th season, and in this, it's the get-go, and it's so fascinating just structurally watching them realize that the ground is even more fertile than they originally thought as they were plotting out the different arcs of the episodes. And so you watch them sort of things that they thought they could do very quickly. You realize they're now pulling back from that a little bit because they realize the roots go much deeper.
But not throwing it out.
No,
just
not throwing it out.
Just finding the best way to implement
just planting it even more deeply in this fertile ground of Awake that has sort of infinite possibilities. It's one of those. I was joking that Tony Shalhoub, he's just out of his mind for this show. He just thinks it's the greatest concept.
Wait, you just told him about it, or he has?
Yeah. Well, he'd heard about it, and he said, "You're on that? Oh my God!" He was so excited. And I keep meaning, I've got to tell Howard and Kyle that if they need a guest writer, Tony Shalhoub will be happy to sign up, because you can do anything with that concept.
That's true. It does feel like more than most shows that there are possibilities that are totally endless, and there's a sense of freedom and creativity that I think they have that is a real asset to the concept of the show. And then of course that creates the burden of having to structure it, which is a really fascinating challenge that we're interestingly. It's very interesting to watch them meet as each new episode comes out. Each episode has got almost a very distinctive identity to itself. Mm-hmm. And so that'll be interesting to see the second half of the season, what those episodes are like.
Yeah, but part of it too is because it's so young, they don't have a formula.
Yeah.
So it does still feel very raw as they find their way in shaping it. So I love that about it, and I hope it stays raw.
Like that,
yeah. I do.
Now, do you move between the world? Because I think there was some talk that some of you might seep through the other world in different
There is still
places.
talk of that.
And I hope that, I think we both hope that might happen.
That we're actually related.
Actually,
Siamese twins separated at birth. Yes, that finish each other's sentences. That is one of those things that is part of what the possibilities are. and I think it's fair to say that at the point that we've been shooting, it hasn't revealed itself yet. But it is something that seems to I keep hearing this, so it has not been thrown out, this idea. And I think that's partly one of the compelling things about watching the show, is looking to see what happens from week to week, with that in mind. It's that kind of show that I think is extremely watchable, because it has a mystery aspect to it, and so you are watching every moment. You're even reading the scripts, thinking, okay, well, does this mean something? Is this something that's going to come back later, or is it not?
And I, every once in a while, I think I've correctly second guessed the writer. I think, well, now they really. Oh.
No, they didn't.
Oh, right, they didn't. That could happen, and it is a dream, and so anything is possible. I sort of remember flippantly saying, well, I'm going to ask, I'm going to say we need a family group session.
You can call it.
I'm going to call. I'm going to bring the son in. I'm going to bring the wife in. I'm going to bring. Oh, right. Okay, I can't do that. You see how
You'll have
clever
to
I
Skype
am.
the son in. You'll have to Skype the wife in.
Yeah, from heaven.
Yeah, from heaven.
But saying all that, will we get to know more about your characters?
I would say most certainly, in one way or another. Every show, the longer, the more successful it is, I think, owes it to the viewers to reveal more about the characters. Certainly a show like this feels like it can't just stay the same all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would think, my guess is that would be part of the success of the show, a side effect of the success of the show, that you learn more about them. Certainly, like somebody was asking, would either of your characters resort to desperate measures in order to try to get him to see your point of view? And I couldn't say that wasn't going to happen, because it's that kind of show, basically. What do you think? Well, you wouldn't do desperate measures because you're the nice one, and you work pro bono, and you have a gentle approach, and you have a messy office.
I'm an Upper West Side psychologist who does a lot of pro bono work for the police department.
That's as much of her backstory that she's made up.
Upper East Side psychiatrist.
Yeah,
Lord
who's very
knows
structured, and there's lots of books and clean, dust-free surfaces.
Very clean there.
Yeah.
Mine's a little dustier. But the color of my walls have changed, because I said, guys, I feel like I'm about to have a mammogram in this office.
Well, there's a new. Do you know about the color thing? There's a very subtle color palette. The worlds are colored in very subtle different ways. There's
These are
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's very subtle, yeah. Very nice.
If you could pick then what your character was in the other universe or the dream world, what would you want them to be? How would you want them to be related?
I think. Well, let's think about this for a second.
I'd want it to be something recurring.
yes, someone that doesn't die.
Someone who doesn't die.
So greedy. What's better for the show, whatever the best thing for the show is, Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Not just recurring.
Well, and I figure, since you're sort of the hard ass, and I'm the softer one.
Yeah.
In the other reality, I would need to be the hard ass, and in the other reality, you'd need to be the softer one. There would need to be there would need to be a contrast there, don't you think?
Yes, but I could also come onto your side and be a very hard-ass person in a very unexpected kind of. I could be like a military dictator.
This is why we're not the writers.
Yeah.
So,
This is what. Yeah. So I was thinking the opposite. Like it could also be fun if I were a extremely hard person in a completely different function.
Are you
to symbolize the hardness that I
You
represent.
like to maintain control.
Well, my character likes to maintain control. No, but I don't know what the answer is. I mean, there's just too many possibilities.
I thought it was mine. Started playing with it.
Well, and since you're both out actors, right now, at least in the pilot, there's no gay element that I see. But is that something you'd like to see the show at least enveloped, at least in some capacity?
I would say that my standard answer to that is that I love all shows when there's some element of that. I wouldn't say I wouldn't impose that on this particular show for the sake of imposing it on the show. I think as an ethnic minority and as a gay person, I think that the spectrum of humanity is ill-served if it doesn't include everyone. I love shows, I watch shows, and I respond to shows emotionally as a gay person, as a person of color, when those elements are included. So I would think it would be great. I don't think it's absolutely the agenda of the show to do that, but I think as a show that takes place in contemporary society, it will make it a better show for me.
Me too.
Well said. That's good.
I'm just kind of going back to the beginning, but what attracted you originally to be in the show? How did you get involved?
Well, for me, it was Howard Gordon, who had been my god on 24, became the executive producer and head writer after Joel Surnow left. And I just admire Howard so much, and I just thought whatever Howard is involved with, I would like to be involved with. So it really, for me, was about that simple. I didn't really even need to see a script. When he explained to me what the concept was and what the possibilities were for the use of the character that I would be playing. So I signed on pretty quickly.
I was on Law & Order SVU for 11 seasons, and I was, for myself, I was just looking for a change. And I decided to put my hat back in the ring this last year, and this was one of the few scripts that this was the one script that really caught my attention. I just thought it was terrific and engaging, and I wasn't, on paper, I wasn't necessarily so wild about the idea of playing a mental health person again. But then I read the script, and it was a completely different experience for me, and I also really liked the concept of the show, and I was really moved and excited by the show, and so I really got behind it very quickly. I mean, I really wanted the job when I put myself up for it, and was lucky enough to be picked. So I think it speaks to a little bit to the uniqueness of the script, because I just hadn't read a script with this kind of I don't know, it has a creative edge which I think a lot of shows don't have.
At this point, you guys aren't really acting a lot together, right? Because you're in
Not
different
at all.
worlds.
No.
So I think because we see a really nice rapport here, you guys need to do a little stage show.
A little
Someone
one.
do on the
Yes.
side. A little
I'm
one.
trying to think. What
Singing,
plays
some
did I be in
dancing.
with Cherry Jones, and it'll become clear as our relationship deepens. But yeah, I would not say no to that.
Nora, he's already got me to a fundraiser one night.
I just have one last question. If you could pick which world was the real world, your characters aside, which one would you want it to be?
The one that makes Michael Britton the happiest.
Oh,
Aw.
Dr. Lee. Oh my gosh, what a loving answer. I have to concur. I do. I just want him to be happy.
Well, I mean, he's the vortex, the ape, whatever you call it, the middle of the whole show, and the audience is going to invest, we believe, a great deal emotionally in his journey and his healing, and so if one is to reveal itself, then I think that would be the most satisfying thing for the audience.
And not because it's my world, but I am thinking about. It's a great question. Again, I would, if I really did have to answer that as myself, I would say definitely the world in which the child lives.
Yes,
only because
yes.
I can't imagine. I think one expects to lose a spouse, perhaps someday one might lose a spouse, but to lose a child is just so horrendous.
I don't disagree with that, and I also think that the world in which the child has lived is the world that has the potential for the new relationship, which is, I think, built into the concept of the show, that a new relationship is possible for him, and so I would agree with that too.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But
But we have no idea what anything really.
Yeah,
is.
we
have-
really don't know what we're talking
We
about.
have, we, no, I mean we don't even know. You know, I mean, people are saying, did both of them die? Is he in a coma somewhere?
Is he dead?
They're alive. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, and we don't really want to know.
Mm,
All right?
definitely.
As I've learned that we both agree throughout this morning, why would we want to know that? You know,
Yeah.
we're part of the audience of the show in
Yeah.
some way too.
And as we get each script, we get to read it like the audience, which
Yeah.
is wonderful, one at a time.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we won't find out for 5, 7, 10 seasons.
Yes,
right.
Or you find out something and then it turns into something else, and that's always interesting too.
Yeah.
When something does that. But I feel a sense of calm from them, which is really neat. I mean, they seem to have this method of creating the show, which I find it's not a done deal. They don't know every detail of every T is not crossed, but they do have a sense of what kind of a show they want it to be, and what they're aiming towards, and what kind of building blocks that they're putting up in order to achieve that. And that's really exciting to be a part of, to see from the beginning stages. We see a lot of interesting shows on TV and wonder how they got made, and this is a kind of an insider's experience. So I'm grateful for that. I've enjoyed that a lot.